Hello everybody, my name is Kai and welcome back to Warframe. Today we will be taking a look at the Cedo, however you want to pronounce it. The Cedo is a primary fire shotgun and its normalities end there. So let's go take a look at this and I can show you why it is one of the strongest guns in the entire game. And I mean that, entire game. Like I just said, the Cedo is a primary shotgun. But it comes with an interesting alt fire besides its normal buckshot primary version. If you alt fire, you will shoot a glaive. This glaive bounces around up to 11 times and then will return back to your weapon. Now this glaive does a number of things. If we come and take a peek at the stats of the Sedo, you'll see that the alt fire has a ridiculously high status chance. Obviously, I have some mods on my Cedo right now, but a 150% status chance is phenomenal. Now, this glaive, when I come up to these enemies and shoot them with it, you will see that it applies a hell of a lot of status effects. This is because the Cedo has innate condition overload just built into the weapon, which means that for every status effect you have on a target, you will be doing 60% more damage. So if we had, for example, 10 status effects on a target, we would be doing 600% more base damage, which is a lot. Now, some things to note about this explosion is that unmodded, it will always proc at least 2 status effects, and it has a base status chance of 50. One of the status effects that will be procced is randomized between the 4 base elements of heat, toxin, cold, or electricity, so you will always get one of those. Obviously, I'm hitting these enemies multiple times, so I'm hitting them with very many status effects, which will allow me to do a lot of damage. Now that you know a bit more about how the Cedo itself functions, I am here on my test caliber, which has absolutely 0 mods or arcanes on it that could possibly affect the Cedo's performance by itself. So just so you know that this is just the Cedo with nothing else buffing it. But let's take a look at how you actually want to build this. Starting off with our galvanized mods, obviously we are using galvanized hell here. This gives us more multi-shot, and it is an innate multi-shot of 6. This just brings that to 12.6 at base, and this will obviously stack up to 230%, which is a hell of a lot more. Galvanized savvy here is, this is a 100% need recommend. Galvanized Savvy gives you a base 80% status chance, which is very nice because it takes the status chance on the glaive up to 90% from 50, and it also should be noted that the status chance on the base primary fire is nothing, but that's because you can proc 7 statuses at once with the glaive, even more than that. But Galvanized Savvy also gives you, on kill, plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target for 20 seconds, and that stacks up to 2x. So let's just say you have 80% more base damage per status type affecting the target. If you have, say, 7 status effects on your target, which is very easy to proc with the glaive, you will get 560% more base damage. So things like point blank are not needed. Obviously, we have the arcane slot, so we're going to use it. And since we have so much base damage here, the only other way that we can get any more type of that is using primary deadhead with the headshot multiplier. It's very easy to get kills without using status effects for deadhead because one, it's a shotgun, so it's easy to get headshot kills, and 2, even though we are using 100 munitions on this build, it's kind of like a dead mod slot, and you could use other things in there. I just use it because for those heavily armored targets, it's nice to have those extra little slash procs. But besides that, our next mod choices on the Cedo will be critical deceleration and primed ravage. This is for a multitude of reasons. One, it increases our critical chance and critical multiplier, obviously. But with the Cedo being a shotgun and it having such high multi-shot, this is per projectile, so every projectile has a chance to do 4.8x multiply to our damage, which is very high because we have primary deadhead giving us 320%, this giving us a boatload of damage, and the built-in condition overload also giving us a lot more damage. So you times 2000 damage by 4, you get a lot of damage through these mods. After these two though, the rest of the builds are the mods are kind of subjective. Personally, I like to build for viral using Toxic Barrage and Frigid Blast paired with 100 munitions. The reason that I do this instead of corrosive is because the amount of base damage you get is so ridiculously high that for the first couple hours of Steel Path, you will be one-shotting pretty much everything, and I'll show you in a minute, that you don't need corrosive to reduce target's armor. So building for viral with slash, even though you won't be noticing it, you don't need anything else. So as you get to those higher armored or just health targets, this will start to kick in a little bit and be a little bit better than using anything else. And then the last mod slot here, I just like to use Shotgun Barrage because we did get a little bit of a negative to our fire rate. So buffing it up to 6.52 is really great. And other fire rate mods, like Frame Momentum, again, as I've stated in other videos, are pretty terrible, because this is the same fire rate buff, but you get negative 15 damage. In your Exila slot, I recommend you use Galvanized Acceleration. There's no need for anything else in this build. You don't have ammo issues. But Lavos actually has built-in ammo mutation when he uses this, because this is his signature shotgun. But with this being the Cedo build, let's go use it on some enemies. Why don't we? Some level 125 Corrupted Heavy Gunners spawn in here. Remember, I have no frame buffs, so this is just the Cedo alone. When I shoot the glaive, it is going to bounce between all these enemies and proc multiple times. The explosion always procs 2 status effects. So, about to destroy all these enemies. They are now purple, and when I shoot them, I had absolutely 0 stacks right there of no Galvanized, no Primary Deadhead, no Galvanized Savvy, Galvanized Hell. It does such a ridiculous amount of damage, which is why I said you don't need to build for Corrosive or Heat or anything like that. And now that we've built our Galvanized stacks up, I mean, even without the glaive, the Cedo has the lowest base damage of almost every shotgun. But it's still doing a lot. And because we are using Viral and Hunter munitions for lower health targets that we're not priming with the glaive, like Butchers and just Lancers, this will kill them very, very quickly, because those slash procs will take down and get them. But you pretty much are going to be hitting everything with the glaive. So when you do, you just... It also fires very, very quickly. With that being the Cedo build, we're going to swap over to our boy Revenant. Now, it's funny because in my Phantasma video, I actually went in with a Revenant with 0 mods on. So I'm going to throw some mods on my Revenant, but nothing that will buff the damage of the Cedo or Fire Rate or anything in any way, just so that you can see how strong it is in the actual game. So I will see you there in 1 second. Actually, before we get started, I do want to note that you can make an argument to use a Bane mod over the Shotgun Barrage, because the fire rate increase is nice, but not needed. And I totally agree with you. For the first 2 hours of Steel Path, which is where most of the player base resides in, and where I make my builds for, you do not need any Bane mod for anywhere. The Cedo does so much damage that it's not needed. But if you want to take the Cedo to level cap, which you very well can, use a Bane mod. I'm not going to be using one here, but it is totally alright to use one. So if you want to do even higher levels with the Cedo, definitely use that. But let's go get into the Steel Path. Here we are in Mott, the Void, on the Steel Path, my favorite place to test things for you guys. One thing I want to note again is that I have 0 mods on my Revenant that will be buffing the damage of the Cedo in any way. I'm also not going to use Roar. I'm just using him because he is practically invulnerable. I also don't have a companion on. So obviously, if you use a frame that can buff your weapons in any way, like Harrow or anyone else, or just a companion in general, you will see much better results than this. But this is just to show you the Cedo's power just by itself. So let's get it started. You will see that this gun there is no struggle for it within the first couple hours of Steel Path. It just does such a high amount of damage. Yeah. Even without priming the enemies, but like when we do prime them with the glaive, it just destroys. And even the glaive starts to get to do some damage. Which isn't terrible. You know, like I said before, though, the Cedo does have the lowest base damage of any shotgun, I think, right behind, like, the MK1 Strun. Without using the, glaive alt fire. Obviously, that's where its base damage comes from. So just be aware that you, like, you know, this guy isn't primed, and I'm going to kill him very quickly. I mean, these Butcherson's really weak, but, like, I'm going to kill this. Oops. I'm going to kill this guy very quickly because of Hunter munitions and Viral. But just be aware that, like, you want to be shooting the glaive off as much as possible. It just makes this thing even more phenomenal. And like I stated before, if you use a Bane mod, you will do even more damage to these targets. Is it necessary? No. Not at all. Just remember to always be hitting that alt fire so that you can pretty much one-shot these targets. And yeah, then you will have infinite success because the Cedo is just a really, really great weapon. How does it fare against Acolytes, though, you ask? Well, let me show you. Alright, so Mania spawned in, and I forgot to hit my record button when he did. But besides that, if I can get through this mess of enemies that are here right now, well, it'd be great to have a grouping ability. Where is he? There he is. You'll see that with even no status effects, I mean, it's... Oh, there we go. Yeah, we got some procs on him. And if he wants to stop being immune and actually take some goddamn damage. Let me just proc this again. Oh, am I gonna die? No, I'm not. Mania is such a goddamn annoying acolyte. Doesn't help that half these enemies are Eximus too. I can't even freaking see them. Yeah, no issue though. No issue. One thing I actually did forget to mention too is that the glaives that the Cedo shoots out are affected by multi-shot. So like the more multi-shot you have, the chance you can shoot out multiple glaives. Like right now I think I'm shooting out 2 glaives, which is how I'm able to get these status procs on so many enemies. But you can see the Cedo is a very, very fun weapon. Very intense on the effects on your screen. But it's just good. It is just a good weapon. Alright everybody, that is going to be it for this video on the Cedo. Now, this is one of my favorite guns. I think it's in my top 5 most used of all time because it's just that powerful. I did some testing without recording, and I should actually make it known to you that using the Cedo with a Bane mod, because Bane mods are multiplicative damage, is really, really good. Like I stated before though, you don't need that. Like you really don't need that. But if you are trying to get the absolute most out of the Cedo, or really any weapon, use Bane mods. Like they're very good. They're very good, and I think that that's kind of like understated. And you know, I myself am not someone who uses them very often. I don't use the primed ones because I don't have the primed ones one. But they increase your damage a lot. The micromanagement that is required to use them when you're going in between lots of different content is annoying, but I promise you that if you use a Bane mod on the Cedo, your damage will skyrocket. It's not necessarily necessary, but besides that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.